attention this summer. Just the crowd at, the 500 and 1,000 events that I've played, where it was combined. And I will say, like, at least my matches were, like, pretty much more crowded or the same crowded as some of the top seeds on the men's side. So I don't think it's a traction issue on, obviously in some tournaments, yes, but especially in, like, the 1,000 events, I don't think it's necessarily an attraction issue. So I think we have a long ways to go, but I am proud to say that where we are now, especially in the Grand.
Karolina Muchova just let loose on the tennis community with grievances that have everyone is conversing. Just prior to the WTA star called out the Australian Open reward money, timetables and regulations that she is being blatantly foolish. Moreover, when she brought up players competing injured in order to avoid punishment, that should make everyone consider players such as Coco Gauff. This goes beyond complaining. This reveals a flawed system. Have you ever had to persevere through something that was obviously detrimental to you simply because avoid being punished? Leave a remark. Since Muchova's revelations regarding the tennis tour is something that a working individual can most likely connect to on a certain degree. Just now, Karolina Muchova. A shocking interview with the world of tennis is booming. And to be honest, it's time for someone to say this loud. The Czech athlete didn't hold back regarding the issues facing professionals tennis at the moment. From the prize money that does not correspond with the revenue being produced according to a timetable that's physically impossible to sustain. Regulations that are so absurd that she literally referred to them as foolish. Additionally, the most worrying aspect is that gamers are competing while hurt in order to avoid penalties and fines. First, let's discuss the money problem because a lot of things went straight for the jugular in this instance. She uttered, almost all Grand Slams now begin on Sunday, so an additional day of earnings for them. In contrast to other sports, our earnings are extremely low. The Grand Slams discovered they could increase revenue by beginning competitions on Sunday rather than Monday, extending the number of ticket sales days and broadcast income. A wise business decision for them, but do the participants see any of that additional cash? According to Muchova, the competitions are earning more money and the athletes who are genuinely offering the fun are receiving the same cut as before. Previously, that's not just compensation. That's the companies discovering new strategies to make money while retaining players. Earnings have stagnated.
To switch gears a little bit, we're kind of in this moment where the popularity of women's sports is rapidly growing, Obviously, in terms of men's and women's tennis, there's still discrepancies, whether it's pay gap outside of Grand Slams or scheduling of matches. I'm curious, how do you see yourself using your platform to kind of advocate for these things, and where should we be focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, in Grand Slams, we're obviously there when it comes to the prize money, but in the tour, it's a very big gap, and I think the start is for sure targeting the combined events, the ATP and WTA combined events, because for me, there's no reason we're both playing 2 out of 3 sets, playing at the same venue, and sometimes there's female players like me, Irina, Iga, Jess, who are selling out selling out some of these stadiums more than some of the other guys and they're getting paid way more. So I just think on a fair standpoint that's one of the, and some combined events have that, but I would like to reach all of that first, and then we can work our way down when it comes to 500s and 250 level. But I think combined events, when you look at it objectively, it definitely doesn't make a lot of sense why the pay gap is that large.
Additionally, when she states that in contrast to in sports, players' earnings are quite low, and she's not lying. Tennis has this peculiar arrangement where the competitions and regulatory organizations make enormous sums of money, but the players, particularly those who are not in the top ranks, are finding it difficult to break even. After covering the cost of coaches, travel, trainers, as well as all other costs that accompany competing at that level. Unlike team sports, where you have a paycheck, tennis players are basically independent contractors who must provide funding their whole business while the companies they work for maintain, boosting their profit margins. However, the financial problem is only the starting. Muchova was particularly passionate about the timetable, and this is where things get truly worried about the player welfare. She clarified that the time of year is harsh. The regulations are really stringent. Have 6 WTA 500 tournaments that are required, and every WTA 1000, the most of which, the Grand Slams and the past 2 weeks. If I has to complete all tasks without being penalized, I would take a plane to Australia and never return. Let that settle in until November. If the player complied with all requirements, tournament specifications without taking, they would be away from home for any breaks, practically the whole year, January in Australia until November, before they are able to go home. Really, that's not a job. That is better than indentured servitude. Prize money. No human being is able to such a program without serious repercussions for both mental and physical health. This is the bit that should worry you. Everyone, particularly when you consider concerning young celebrities such as Coco Gauff, who are already under a great deal of stress. Occasionally, you even play hurt to prevent penalties or fines. I experienced that. This year, Mucha acknowledges that she played this year despite an injury because the alternative, omitting a required tournament, there would have been penalties, any sanctions that would lower her position and her capacity to participate in other happenings. Consider how outdated that is. The system is actually encouraging gamers to take a chance on their long-term well-being to prevent short-term penalties. That's hardly player welfare. That is exploitation disguised as requirements for the tournament. When you relate this to athletes like as Coco Gauff, who is already coping with the stress of winning the Grand Slam, and one of women's tennis players at a certain age, 20, the worry intensifies. How many golf competitions are there? Through minor wounds as a result of skipping. How many of them would be penalized? Sometimes she pushes her body past sensible boundaries because the system penalizes gamers for putting their health. But Muchova didn't end there. Went straight after the regulations. Many foolish regulations. Just plain. Referred to them as foolish. Not troublesome or revision is necessary. It's foolish. Someone who is tired of a system that is obviously not effective for the players, who must genuinely endure this rules. She went into detail about the impact on health. A whole schedule is incapable of long-term management without it has an impact on your health, particularly your emotional well-being. Each year, there's a new addition. The tempo is extremely stringent. Identifying scheduling holes is nearly unachievable. It's been a long struggle, but in the end, people are beginning to discuss it more. Health must be given top importance. The focus on, in particular, mental wellness is crucial. Several well-known players have appeared. Discuss mental health issues in. Naomi Osaka withdrew from recent competitions, mentioning mental health. Players have becoming more forthcoming. regarding the psychological effects of the tour. However, Muchova claims that the schedule continues to get increasingly difficult, not less. Each year, something fresh is added. The pace is becoming more rigorous, not more sensible. This is a system that's traveling in the opposite direction from where it ought to be heading. As awareness of mental health problems rises as we find out more about how important rest is and recuperation, the tennis tour is in some way making the game more difficult for players, not simpler. That's not merely foolish, that's hazardous. The reality that identifying holes in the schedule is nearly unachievable. Players are unable to adequately recover from injuries. They are unable to handle mental health breaks without being penalized, cannot modify their schedule in accordance with their unique requirements and conditions. They're trapped in this treadmill that continues to accelerate. Additionally, if they are unable to keep up, they get penalized or fined. Let's now discuss regarding the implications of this for someone like, in particular, Coco Gauff is 20 years old. She's a Grand Slam winner already. She is among the most marketable athletes in tennis. She is under pressure to massive, not only to perform but to attend all of these required events because to her draw supporters, sponsors want to see her. Her star is sought for by the tournament's power, but golfers are also people. She understands. Worn out. She sustains injuries. She need mental pauses. In addition, Muchova's bombshell interview, the existing framework, doesn't actually permit any of that. Without both financial and professional ramifications. What then occurs when golf must be skipped? A competition to heal from